Welcome back to the R.M.Williams Outback podcast. Great to have you here. This is Terry Cowley. I'm the host of the podcast and also the senior associate editor of R.M.Williams Outback magazine. We're very grateful to Ram Trucks for sponsoring this podcast. Humble, hardworking, alternative country singer-songwriter Fanny Lumsden has reignited the genre with her honest storytelling and strong melodies. Fanny is the subject of an extensive profile story in issue 156 of Outback magazine. She also features as one of 20 subjects in our 2024 Outback Great Australians magazine. Fanny joins me now while she's touring in the UK. Hi, Fanny.
Hello. You make it sound very fancy.
Well, I'm sure it is. How is the tour going?
Oh, it's fantastic. We've just finished a run of halls in Scotland, and now we're down in England doing the UK club dates, and it was just incredible. It was the first time we've brought the country halls tour from Australia, from regional Australia, all the way to Scotland, and I just had a feeling that, they'd understand the essence of the country halls, especially up in the Highlands and elsewhere, and they did. And I'm very relieved to say they did. So it was very fun. And yeah, now we're down in Manchester, about to start the run through the UK, through England.
I'm sure they'll get it just as well in England, certainly in Northern England anyway.
Yeah, no, the shows that we were here back earlier in the year in April, and the shows went off, so we came back pretty quickly. And yeah, we had a really great time. We just hadn't been up into Scotland before with a country halls tour, so that was a first. It was a bit of a risk and something we ran independently and promoted ourselves. So it was a big call coming all the way from Australia. But yes, it was really fun, and we're having a ball over here.
So the story that Kirsty McKenzie wrote about you in Outback starts with a gig at the Robertson School of Arts, and it was with your band, the Prawn Stars. What a great name.
Yeah, pretty funny. Actually, someone at a gig the other day here came to the show and was like, I didn't know if this was going to be a drag show or not. You know what? I'm leaning in. Why don't I get some through the door?
That's right. And I love the description. The atmosphere is somewhere between a concert and the barely controlled chaos of a kid's birthday party. And of course, it's very much your family affair, isn't it, with your husband and brother?
Yes. Yeah, it really is. The country halls tour specifically, that tour and that kind of show that we put on is very much that energy. It started back in 2012, and the country halls tour did, and it's been, we've played in hundreds of halls ever since. But when it started, we hadn't released any music. We didn't have any profile. No one knew who we were, so we had to work out how to kind of put on events that got people to come together, where we could still perform our live original music and tell our stories to the people that we were writing about, essentially, but in a way that was exciting and interesting. And so, yeah, the chaos element, I think that's where that came in. There's totem tennis competitions, there's all sorts of things. So it makes it very fun.
Yeah, I guess it makes something a bit different too.
Yeah, and I think one of the really important aspects of the country halls to me is keeping it accessible to everybody. So the best thing about it is that the other day we had a 96-year-old grandma and we had a 2-week-old baby.
Wow.
And everyone in between. And I think that really is so important, to be able to create a space where people can enjoy live original music, hear stories about their own lives, and maybe they've never even been to a gig before. That's another thing that happens, especially out in the bush in Australia, is that we get a lot of people come to the shows that have just never been to a gig before. And yeah, that's magic.
As you describe it, it really reminds me of what Slim Dusty and Joy McKean used to do.
Yeah, I have learned this actually, and it's really interesting, as people have been saying this to me for a long time, but it wasn't actually until I watched their documentary last year that I actually realized, because even though I was a fan, like Slim Dusty, like my dad listened to his records, I knew nothing about their lives and knew nothing about even though I'm in the industry, I just didn't know. And so I think what has come out of is just that, there are all these halls around, there are all these rural and bush communities, and it kind of has made sense. So yeah, it has been very parallel, but I didn't rip them off, if that makes sense, because I didn't know.
No, no, but it's almost like you've gone back to the basics.
Yeah, and I think growing up on a farm in regional Australia, that was the essence of that. I grew up out at like Toowoomba, between Toowoomba and Wee, and I, went to the hall and we put on the Christmas play, like they had the Christmas tree down there, and we'd go and do things at the hall. And when I was starting playing music and touring in like back in about 2012, and I was living in Sydney and I had a band, I knew how to access these communities, but the music industry itself was actually quite exclusive, and and it was quite hard to get gigs, and also the I mean, the music industry won't really like this part, but like the structure of it really kind of cuts out emerging artists, and it made it really financially difficult to start. Whereas I was like, oh, I can hire the hall, and like I know how to get the community to come out, and so yeah, I think that those kind of things kind of make sense if you understand them and you're from within them.
Yeah, and something very democratic about a country hall, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that that's really, and that's remained really like a core part of the country halls tour model as well, is like I said, that accessibility and that democratic kind of threshold. Like some people might feel intimidated going into a venue because they've never done it before, or feel like they shouldn't go to a pub, or whereas a hall is open to everyone. And I really love that.
Hmm. So perhaps if we can start at the beginning of your story. So you were born Edwina Lumsden, the
Yeah.
first child of schoolteacher Jenny and farmer David from Talimba, as you said, near West Wyalong in the New South Wales Riverina. And you have very fond memories of growing up on the farm.
Yeah, I did. I was actually born out at Warren, and then yeah, we moved a little bit when I was little, but yeah, did all my growing up out at West Wyalong, or between Toowoomba and Wee out there, and absolutely loved it. I think I'm the luckiest person in the world to have grown up, on a farm and just spent the weekends moving sheep in 40 degrees and on the back of horses, and like helping the sheep yards and whatever else we were doing, driving the header or the chaser bin at harvest. And, I think it just has taught me so much in terms of how to get stuff done and chip in and be part of a community and all of those kind of things. And yeah, it's very idyllic.
And what was your family like? Musical, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they were very musical. There was it was actually more classical music, really. Like dad, like writes bush poetry, and he's always written bush poetry. So like we'd go around the campfire, or when we would go like on holidays, we would usually just go camping with the horses or go and stay at other people's properties and help them move cows instead. And so dad would always tell poetry, like, tell his poems around the campfire. And so there's always that element, and always telling yarns about different things. And then, yeah, like more classical music as well. So we all learned classical piano and maybe another instrument, and all my cousins did. And then we would all sing as well. My dad actually used to have this thing where we were driving like long distances because there was 4 kids. He used to call it a song-free zone, because he'd be like, all right, from this town to this town's a song-free zone, because we'd all be singing, but we'd sometimes all be singing different songs. And he'd just be like, okay, everyone just please be quiet just for 5 minutes.
Fair enough. And one of your early influences was West Wyalong music teacher Lucy Buttonshaw. And she said it's not surprising that you've evolved into the wonderful creative you are today.
I know that's very kind of her. She's a really beautiful person. She's got this lovely energy, and I still remember it as a 5-year-old, like, or a 6-year-old or whatever I was, like learning scales with her. And she's also an artist, and we go into her house, and it was full of art. And I remember the bathroom walls were full of drawings and pictures and scribbles, and I hadn't seen anything like that. And so it was just, I found it so inspiring that you could just express creativity in all of these different ways. And yeah, she's a really beautiful person. So I suppose that really kicked it off. I think I definitely was a born show pony as well. We used to get up and put on like song and dances and performances on the backs of horses, and we'd make our family pay for it to come and see us in the middle of summer, make them sit outside and watch us in the yard as we put on spandex and, you know, performed on our horses. Or like, every family event, there was always, the lineup of performances from the family, so can't keep it in sometimes.
So you continued music and high school, then went to the University of New England in Armidale, but you quickly realised that studying science wasn't your bag.
I realized that, but I did finish the degree anyway. I suppose just for the fact of I started it. Yeah, so I did rural science in at UNE, which I did love I loved being there, and I loved, like the world of being at uni and making all those friends and the process of it. But yeah, I remember by the time I got to my fourth year, I was like skipping pracs to like because I was playing the guitar just in my room. So, it was fairly clear. But I definitely wasn't at any point at that point, like thinking about a career. My songs I was writing were absolutely terrible. So I'd just like to shout out to anyone at uni who did have to endure my songs in the dining hall at college. Because yeah, they were rubbish. But you got to start somewhere, and I thank everybody for clapping in those times because I probably wouldn't be here otherwise.
All part of the journey.
Yes.
And then you got a job as a wool broker in Sydney, and that's where you met your husband,
Yeah.
to be.
Yes. So I was living in Sydney, and I worked at Auctions Plus, and so I was working there, like selling wool and sheep and cows, which was fun. But I always had to keep asking for time off because of sound checks and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I met my husband. He was actually my bass player first, so it's a classic story. So he was my bass player, then my housemate, and then my husband as well. So took a little bit.
Got there eventually.
We got there eventually. It took a few years in between. A lot of gigs, a lot of miles in the car. So, but yeah, he's from Sydney, and now I'm not sure if back then, if you'd asked him if he'd foreseen his life would change rapidly and he'd end up living in the bush and spend most of his time touring country music, I think he would have said no, but here we are.
So the Country Hall Tour concept was hatched in 2012 when Talimba was hit by floods.
Yeah, for a place that's been through a lot of drought, we had some pretty flash floods, you know how it happens out there, and took out a lot of fences. And there was Blaze Aid was out west, had some camp out at Ungary, and they had just kind of been out there working for a while. So I was like, let's put on a show in the hall, and like all those volunteers can come for free. And then everyone can donate some money to like help them. And that was kind of the start. We called it a Flood Country Halls Tour. And we did 3 shows, one in Talimba, one in Ganmain, and one in Borey Creek. And Borey Creek Hall itself had gone underwater. And so, we just I thought it was going to be just a one-off. I'd never put on shows before. I just kind of did what made sense to me. And all my friends like kind of just like pitched in. Like we had a friend who was a sound guy who came, someone else who had a van they lent us. Like everyone just kind of lent us stuff. And we really just kind of made it up. But everybody came, all the people came, all the community came. And the thing that kind of spurred it on is that everyone was like, oh, you should see our hall. Our hall's way better than this hall. You should play our hall. And so I was like, all right, prove it. And so that is kind of the essence of how it started. And it kind of got moving a bit faster in that like people all of a sudden were starting to send me their halls all the time. Come and play our hall, come and play our hall, come and play our hall. And so I had to start an application process. And so it moved after a couple of years, it moved into a process where I would say, all right, all of the halls, you apply for this year's tour, and everyone would send an application in, and then I would go through the halls and I would structure it. And so we don't really go back to the same hall twice because we have so many halls apply, and it's still the same. Like we still take applications and then route the halls as much as we can. We are playing kind of catch up still from COVID actually. But yeah, we're doing that last tour now, and it'll be back to that same application model, which I think is pretty cool.
And you try to encourage local support acts.
Yeah, so it's a very ground up, like local based show. One thing I want to do is make it so it's like the risk is very low for the hall, but they really feel like ownership over the event. And so we have kind of structured it that way. So, and I think it's just really important to have like provide a space where local singer-songwriters or performers or poets or whatever you are aspiring to be can just get up and have a crack with full production, with a sound person that can help you go through that, with us that can be like, just stand here, use the microphone like this, like, because for me growing up out at West Wyalong, I didn't have that. I'd never sung into a microphone. I remember my first gig in Sydney where I was performing at the Vanguard actually solo. The sound guy was like, just plug into the DI, and I was like, I didn't know what that meant. I was like, just staring at him blankly. So we want to provide a space where like you can just have a go and it's a safe space, and then your community's there to give you a big cheer. And so yeah, that has been really great. And we just discovered so many artists this way as well. There's so much incredible talent out there.
And you often provide an opportunity for community fundraising as well.
Yeah, really early on in the halls tour, one of the halls, I think it was like the second year it happened, one of the halls was like, "Oh, do you reckon we could like yeah, make it a fundraiser because we need to fix the roof?" And I was like, "Yeah." So we fixed a finance model now options. We have finance model options. So there's like one way that it's just basically all the money will go to the hall and then we cover our costs through a different kind of way. And which are significant, as you can imagine, putting on shows. But yeah, I think that was a really cool element. And also, every single hall they run the bar and the barbecue and like all of that, and all that money stays local. And one of the cool things about having grown a profile now and being able to like draw people in from further afield, not just rely on that community itself, is that people now travel for the halls tours. So they'll come out of the city because they want to experience this, but they're coming into these little towns. They're staying at the pub or at the caravan park or at the motel. They're buying food from the local, from the cafe, and then they're coming down to the hall and they're bringing money into that, and it's kind of we're not taking the money straight out of the community, if that makes sense. So I feel like that's pretty important.
At what point did you make the leap into a professional music career?
I put my first album out in 2015, which was called Small Town Big Shot. But I still was kind of like, I was still working other jobs at the same time. My husband and I left Sydney and we drove around Australia in a little tiny caravan playing shows everywhere. And we kind of that was kind of the first step into professional kind of world. But it was in 2017, I won an award from APRA, which is like our recording body. That was a cash prize. And I remember being out in Cloncurry at the time when they gave me the phone call. That's my baby crying in the background. So yeah, we were out in Cloncurry and I won the award, and we had to get all the way down into Sydney. And I remember my phone, like I was getting a phone call from Telstra that day being like, "We're going to cut your phone off if you don't pay your bill." And like, it was like, I was like on a knife's edge. And then I won this award, and I'd been working all these kind of other freelance jobs as well. And it was just the point where I could take the risk. It was enough to kind of pay my phone bill, pay off those other little debts, and then kind of take a jump. And honestly, doing that it really helped me because I had to make it work. I'd taken the risk, and so we did. And yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind ever since, because it was that same year that we won our first golden guitar, and yeah, things kind of rattled on from then.
So you're still doing, what you were doing, really, perhaps an upgraded caravan, and now when you go on tour, you take the kids with you.
Yes, as you can hear in the background, perhaps like potentially there's one of them's crying. He just woke up and he went to bed late, so I think he's a bit cranky. Yeah, we just basically we have, and we've got our own record label, and we've gone all the different levels. Like I've got like we still participate in the professional industry. Obviously, we've got agents and labels and do all of that kind of stuff. And obviously, we're over here touring in the UK. However, the Country Halls Tour part is such a strong element. And I think it's a core part of what I do and the artist that I've become, that I think if I took it away, I would lose the essence of what I'm talking about and who I am. So yeah, instead we've just expanded it to places like Scotland and New Zealand, and obviously we will keep touring regional Australia with the Country Halls Tour as well, and you know just keep growing as much as we can, but keeping that core kind of strong element.
So you mentioned your first album, Small Town Big Shot. Then you recorded Fallow, which was written during the drought before the Black Summer bushfires of 2019-2020, which burnt the whole valley.
Oh, well and truly. Yeah, that bushfire was the 2019-2020 fires. Yeah, where we live is actually where that big mega fire joined. That burnt 600,000 hectares. So yeah, it burnt pretty badly where we are. But it was pretty significant. So yeah, Fallow was my third album. I had written it in the drought, and I'd written it. I was sick of talking about it. I think I was sick of like, I'd written songs from my second album, Real Class Act. I kind of addressed a lot of that kind of stuff, and we were talking about it all the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm sick of talking about it. I just want to write about green grass and running water and hope. Like that's what I want to write about. And so I wrote this album, And I'd also gone through this person, like I had a baby and we lost Dan's mum to cancer within a really short amount of time. And so I just wrote this really personal kind of album that was about hope and loss and all these different things. And then it came out as the pandemic started, and it was just weirdly applicable to the world that happened in 2020, post fires and with COVID. And it was like I'd written it for it. It was very strange because it came out on the 13th of March, which was the day that everyone went into lockdown. So yeah, it was quite an incredible year. And that album just, it was a real breakout moment for us. It won lots of awards and had an incredible response from people.
So you kind of keep things viable by really being very hands-on with everything.
Yes. The music industry is actually like, it's very misunderstood, I think, from the outside, because I think because it involves an element of like fame, if you will, like that is important, right? For the industry, because like you need people to know who you are. However, it's really tough. It's actually very close to farming, I think, without the assets. And I think that that's why I'm fine with it, because I always say that like farmers risk, like they gamble against the weather, whereas we gamble against people's opinions. And I'm not sure what's more reliable, to be honest, or what's more predictable. I think by doing everything in house, it's kind of just how we always started. And you kind of think that one day that won't be the case, but it's just for us. It's just always kept going. So my husband he's a graphic designer, and he does all the like the video editing and like the merch design and ordering and all of that kind of stuff. And I am the manager. Yeah. So like essentially like I am the CEO. I like run the business because it's just a business. It's a small business. My brother runs the merchandise side of things. And I have a lot of help as well. I have some incredible supporters who are all regional, and they are amazing. They're all here with us actually, over here in the UK at the moment. And I think what I've learned is that you know your business and you know what you're doing, and trusting that has been really a core element of what we're doing. In saying that, if you are going to be better at it than me, please give me a call.
I don't think I'll be calling you about that, but so you've had some incredible high points along the way, including winning 9 country music awards, Golden Guitars, ARIAs for Best Country Album of the Year, and last year you were invited to perform at Glastonbury. Well, that's definitely not a country town hall, is it?
No, it is not. That email I thought was spam when I got invited to play Glastonbury. Yeah, it was incredible. We came over here last June and went and performed at the biggest festival in the world. And after we got off the stage, 2 hours later, the Foo Fighters performed, and like it was headlined by Elton John, and it was just the most nuts experience. I was really just like gaslighting myself the whole time. Even on the way to the stage, I was like, we were in the transport being driven. It's on a farm as well. So we were driving past the cows that were getting milked. It was just so hilarious. Backstage, this cow's just getting milked. And then we like get driven to our stage where 250,000 people go to this festival. It is huge. And I was still like, oh, I think they've got the wrong Fanny. I'm not sure it's meant to be us. But it was nuts. And we thought maybe no one would turn up to our set, but it was packed. Like thousands and thousands of people were there. And it was just surreal. So yeah, we really started off the UK career at the top. So it's been pretty funny.
Fantastic. Another pinch me moment, I think, might have been when you worked with Paul Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm such a huge fan of Paul Kelly and his storytelling and his ability to just like distill the essence of life in Australia into a song, and uniquely. He asked us to come on the road with him in 2021, I think it was, and 2020 and 2021. And we had all of these shows booked already. We were already doing the country halls tour. We were touring all over the place, trying to make up for lost time from 2020 out on the road. And then he called, and I was like, we will make this work. And I tell you, it was logistic gymnastics basically making that work, but we did. And it was incredible, an incredible run of shows to sit there each night on the side of the stage and watch him like do what he does so well. It was a real lesson in storytelling and connection.
And I think in such a tough industry, as you've described, I guess the temptation would be just to work, 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 and never ever miss an opportunity. But maybe, like a lot of people, COVID forced you to take a bit of a break, and maybe that wasn't such a bad thing.
It was actually not 2020 that was the year that forced that hand either. 2020 was the year that my album came out, Fallow. So we like went hard. We worked really hard from home, and like it paid off. Like the album did incredibly well, and but we didn't really stop during that period. I didn't write. I didn't go like into like a hole and do nothing. We just like kept going, and then it wasn't really until 2021, after I was saying we were on the road with Paul Kelly, and we had all of these shows booked around Australia, and we were trying to get to Darwin after being in Queensland to play Darwin Festival, and the band all flew home for the week to see their families, and their border shut in, and they got stuck there, and so we had to then make a decision to drive from like southern Queensland to Darwin. We had 3.5 days to do 3,500 k's, and with the new caravan and the toddler, and I was pregnant, and it was pretty hectic. And we hit the road. We lost the caravan door on the way, and we drove all the way like through the night and through the day, and eventually we made it up to Darwin. And what happened was during that week of getting like those 3.5 days getting up to Darwin, the rest of our shows, we had 56 shows booked. They were all cancelled because of COVID, and we had one left after the Darwin show, and it was 2,500 k the other way at Mackay, and so we went to kind of leave to do that, and we pulled over into a campsite for the night, and then Northern Territory went into its first ever lockdown in that area, and it was very funny. I think there was one case or something, and anyway, we got stuck in a campsite in the Northern Territory and missed our last show of those 56 that were booked. We had one left, and then we missed it as well because we got stuck in this campsite. And then we ran into some friends who also happened to be my doctor from home, and I was pregnant, and so that was kind of convenient in that like she was like able to do a checkup in the campsite. But then we all get along really well, and they were like, "We're going to WA. Do you want to come?" And we'd been in Northern Territory long enough to get in across the border, and they were like, "We're like, sure." So we ended up going around all the way around WA to go home, and phones that we tried to keep working a little bit, but it didn't really kind of work, and so we had this forced break that turns out I really, really needed. What came out of that was an entire album. And I wrote an album as I drove around Australia, and got home and recorded it, and we released it last year. And it was called Hey Dawn. And it did very well as well. I feel like it ran out the gates before I had a minute to catch it, that album. And it's been quite a surreal experience. So yeah, even Dolly Parton she announced it when it won the album of the year at the ARIAs this year, and all sorts of stuff. So it's been a pretty crazy ride with that album.
Yes, I was going to mention Dolly. How could one not mention Dolly?
True.
2023 ARIA for Best Country Album. And yeah, Dolly Parton announcing your win. That is pretty special.
There's some footage of me actually, and my mouth is so wide because I was so shocked that we won. And it's very funny. The first thing I said that came out of my mouth, because I didn't plan a speech because I didn't think we were going to win at all, was, "I think Dolly just said Fanny on television." But yeah, that was absolute highlight for sure.
Understandably. So it seems as though you, despite the ups and downs, you've never really wavered in your faith in the music.
No, it's really strange. I mean, I've wavered in other things, but yeah, in my belief that what we're doing is right and that I should keep sharing stories from regional Australia. Like, having grown up out there and I still live on a farm out there. For me, the reason we are deemed country music is because I tell stories from a perspective of someone who comes from the country, and that's not the only definition of country music, of course, but that's mine. And I just know that those stories need to be told, and I just believe that they should be. And I've never really doubted my place in terms of singing and sharing stories. And as long as people keep coming to shows and coming to halls and buying the music and connecting in some way, I'll keep going.
Now, we should play a bit of music during this podcast. What song would you want me to play?
Oh gosh, maybe let's go with When I Die. This song is just a fun song, and I'll quickly tell you the story behind it. But a local guy from our area where I live now, Toomer in New South Wales, he pulled me up the pub and he said, "Oi, Fanny, how much to play at me funeral?" And I said, "I don't know, maybe 2 loads of wood and a cow." And he rocked up to my house 6 months later with the first down payment of a load of wood. And I was like, oh, what do you want at your funeral? And he was like, well, I want my ashes to be put into shotgun shells. And then I want everyone to gather on the side of the hill. And then just as the sun sets against the awesome view, I want you to shoot my ashes into the sky. And then I want you to be standing behind us and playing just like a couple of bangers. He's got a list of great songs. And I was like, oh, this is a pretty good plan. Anyway, when we were accidentally driving around Australia, and I was coming across the Nullarbor, sitting around the campfire one night on my own while my husband was putting our toddler to bed, and I wrote this song which is called "When I Die," and it's a real celebration of life and death in a way that I loved how this conversation has really sparked talking about what you want when you die, and I think that's something that we don't really talk about much, and it's been a very interesting process promoting the song as well, and so yeah. This is for anyone who knows what they want in life and death.
Amazing. I'm sure that will provoke a lot of conversations, as you say. So I guess I should let you go. It's early in the morning in the UK for you there now. You've probably got a very busy day. And what's the next gig?
So tonight we're in Manchester. We're playing at Night and Day Cafe, which is a great venue here. And then we're off to a festival tomorrow called Underneath the Stars in Yorkshire. And then, three more shows next week in the UK. And then we come home and we play Monday. We just came back from the Big Red Bash before we came out here. So we've got Monday. And then I'm out on the road on a Fleetwood Mac tour. And then I am just about to announce another tour, actually a solo tour, where I'm going to be, it's called Story Club, which I've never done before. I always tour with my band. And so I'm going to go out and do this Story Club. It's really special shows where we talk about the stories behind the songs, and it's just me and my guitar. It's going to be great.
Thank you so much for your time, Fanny.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm just going to remind people that they can read much more about you and see some amazing pictures, including the Prawn Stars overalls drying on the line, which is how people in your local area know that you are home.
Yeah, it's like a red flag. They're literally red, and they hang on the...
If you want to see that great Ken Brass picture and read more about Fanny, as I said, you can grab a copy of issue 156 of Outback. And you should also grab a copy of Outback Great Australians, because Fanny's a great example of all the fantastic people who are in there as well. So thanks again for your time, Fanny, and all the best with the rest of the tour.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. We've bought Outback ever since the start, so it's a real thrill.
Keep buying it, please.
We will.
And we'll just get a little shout out to our listeners as well. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I'll talk to you in the next one. Take care. Thanks, Fanny.
Thank you so much. That was lovely.